Hey, what's up you guys? I am back for a new video and today I'm going to be talking about the 5 love languages. Some of you probably already know a lot about the 5 love languages and I'm not going to go too in depth today about what each of those love languages are because you can Google them and I'm sure most of you have taken a test or have somewhat been familiarized with the 5 love languages. But today I kind of want to talk about love languages and how they can affect and improve your close relationships in your life. I have found that the love languages have been such a key to having better relationships with my husband, with friends, with my family. And most of the time when I talk to people and they're having a relationship or friendship or family issue, a lot of the times it is because they don't understand each other and they don't communicate love in the same way. And it is crazy how true this is, that most of the time it's that this person doesn't feel understood or loved and the other person doesn't. And most of the time they're trying to communicate love and understanding to one another, but because they don't understand each other's love languages, there can be a lot of conflict. So quickly, I just want to tell you my love languages and kind of the order that they're in. My first love language is touch, then quality time, then gifts, and then acts of service and words kind of switch on and off, but I feel like right now acts of service comes fourth and then fifth are words, which is crazy because my husband is first in words and I am like kind of last or almost last with words of affirmation. So as you can imagine, this has been a source of a little bit of conflict and misunderstanding in our relationship because my husband shows love through words and I don't really show love through words very much at all. I am starting to make a conscious effort now that I understand that that's his love language. But I would say in the beginning of our relationship, there was a lot of misunderstanding and hurt between us because of us not really communicating to each other in our own love languages. And honestly, mostly it was me hurting him because quality time and touch is still like higher up there for him. I think he's words, then quality time, then touch, then gifts and acts of service. So they were still close enough for him where I felt love from him, but often I would hurt or offend him simply because words were so low for me as far as the love languages go. So I kind of want to tell you guys a little bit of story about that and even how it affects family, friendships. It's really crazy. So like in the beginning of our relationship, we, at one point, me and my husband actually broke up, and it honestly was over stuff like this because he was not feeling loved by me and I couldn't understand why, because I'm like, what do you mean? I'm so like, honestly, like so pretentious. I was like, I'm so loving. I'm such a loving person. Like, why don't you feel loved by me? I don't understand. And then he was constantly like, no, you don't ever say this or that. And I was like, and it was just like this total like disconnect with us. And it's honestly something that I've had to work on in our marriage because it's not my natural instinct to be verbally affirmative with words. I'm someone who I much prefer action over words. And I think a lot of that is that past relationships, different friendships, or, a particular family relationship, these people would say a lot with words to me, but then wouldn't follow through with actions. And that was really hurtful to me. And I was like, honestly, words mean nothing to me. Like, you could say this all day long, but until I actually see you doing something, I don't really believe what you say. Like, basically, your actions have to back up your words. And in past relationships, this would happen a lot where significant others would say all of these things to me, and I would take them so serious. And I'd be like, oh, they said this. And growing up, my mom always taught me and my brother that whatever you say, you have to follow through and never make promises that you can't keep. And I can tell you firsthand, my mom would never make a promise or tell us something that she did not follow through on, ever. And so that was really modeled for me growing up. So when I got into different relationships or even friendships, when they would tell me all this stuff, and like with different romantic relationships, and they'd be like, oh, you're this and that, and write me all these beautiful things, and then would do something totally different, I just would not really buy it. So I think that's part of the reason why maybe words became less important to me as I got older. But so when me and Caleb started dating, I honestly was just not big on words. Like, an example of this would be, we were having Christmas at my family, our first Christmas together in Texas. And my family's really big on gifts. In fact, my mom's #1 love language is gifts, and my brother's is pretty high up there too. So around Christmas, it's like a big deal for us. Like, we research the gifts, we ask beforehand what they want. It's like a really big deal. Christmas is huge for us. We get really into gift giving. And so this was my first Christmas with Caleb, and I was like, I'm gonna get him awesome gifts. And I really did take the time to like look at gifts, and I got him a watch and a couple of clothes from the store called Everlane, and like all these little things. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I got the best gifts. And Caleb, I was really stressed out about the gifts, and it's probably lower on the love language for him is gifts. So he was really stressed out about it, but it came Christmas time, he did lots of research, he got me gifts, and one of the things that he did was that he wrote like this long note to me with the gifts, and like he wrote little funny things on each gift, and like on the back of a box he wrote like this whole letter, and it was really sweet and like romantic. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's cool. But if I'm honest, I did not think a lot about it. Because I'm not high on words of affirmation, I was like, oh, that's really sweet, but like, what did you get me? And like, honestly, like I was more like into the gift because that's higher for me with love language. So for him, I got him all these really cool gifts, and I was excited, but I wrote him nothing. And then after Christmas, like a few days later, I was like, did you like your gifts? Like, you know, like, what did you think? And he was just like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I really like the gifts, thank you so much, but like I honestly really wish you would have written me like a sweet note. Like, this is our first Christmas together, like I'm with your family, like I felt kind of sad that you didn't write me anything. And I was just like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And honestly, I felt kind of like hurt by it. But then later I realized that like it was just a total clash of love languages for us. And this has happened a lot where it's been Caleb's birthday or Valentine's Day. One Valentine's Day, I made him an entire picture booklet with like photos from us for like an entire year. And I put all of our photos, and I spent like 3 hours making this like pretty much like this like photography book, and like just with our travels, because like I've mentioned in previous videos, Caleb and I have pretty much traveled together since we met monthly. So I was like, oh my gosh, all these memories, and he's gonna love it. And it came time to be Valentine's Day. I literally gave him the book, and he loved it, but he didn't have the reaction like I was expecting. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I spent hours. And he's like, yeah, I love the book, but like you didn't get me any kind of card or like note. He's like, I would have loved the book with like all these pictures, but then like writing little memories with each picture. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And honestly, I was like super offended, and I was like, I spent all this time on this book, like, and all you care about is I didn't write you a love note. Like, it was just really frustrating for me. So there was like another source of conflict with us around gifts and words of affirmation. And I started to realize after probably 6 months of dating that like he really only cares about the note. Like, honestly, most of the time I can get him a gift and he'll be excited, but he's not as into it as if I wrote him a note. And this has been such the case. Like, since then I've gotten him cards, and literally to me, like, if I were to receive the cards that I got him, I wouldn't even care, if I'm really honest. I would have just been like, oh, it's cool. I'm not really a card person. And so I've been writing him little like cards and like little notes in the card. And I would literally write 2 sentences, not even more, just really sweet, simple in a card, and give it to him. And he would literally like light up. He's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, I love this card. And I'd just be like, that's so crazy, because if you were to give me the card, I would not care. And honestly, so I just wanted to kind of explain how different it can be in relationships with love languages, and how you might be hurting your partner or they might be hurting you. And it's not that they have bad intentions, that they don't love you. It's just simply a disconnect. And so this is something that me and Caleb have had to work through, because it was honestly a really hard thing in our relationship where he would always verbally affirm me, which I was thankful that he was so quick to say things to me. But honestly, I could have been fine with like a hug and physical touch and been like, I feel loved instantly. So for me, I guess in relationships, I'm more inclined to show you that I love you through consistency and following through on things that I say. I'm very much a person of my word. And also for me, like if I'm really trying to show Caleb love, I literally just want to cuddle him. I don't want to say anything to him. My love language is physical touch. So for me, just to come over and like hug him and for him to touch, like that's what I'm going to feel loved by. And so times in our relationship, and this has been for past relationships too, like I'm like literally just, it doesn't even have to be like you're like overly like hugging me or touching me, like a simple touch on the back or a simple hug or a simple like pat, like any type of touch, I feel so loved. And it's total, and this is for friendships too. And I guess it's a little bit different in friendships because there is a different dynamic there with physical touch. But even with like some of my best friends, like my best friend Heather, I feel like we're really physically affectionate with one another. And I think our love languages are both like physical touch, quality time, and they're probably different, but I think our top two are similar. And I always notice when I'm around her that I feel loved, and I think she feels loved because our love languages is more like spending a lot of time together and talking and listening. And then we've even like cuddled before, which I know is really funny, but that's kind of more our thing, and that's how we feel loved. So it's just crazy to me how much of a disconnect there can be in relationships with the love languages. Another example would be my mom. My mom's number one love language is definitely gifts. And our whole life, my mom has showered me, my brother, with gifts. Like I've come home from a trip, or I've come home from school, and I'd literally come in my room and my mom would have gifts laid out for me on the bed. And that's just always how my mom has told me and my brother that she loves us, is through gifts. She always sends us gifts. She's always buying me stuff. Like she loves to go shopping with me, and that's really her saying, I love you. And I understand that about my mom, and I feel very loved by her that way. But growing up, like none of my family members ever wrote each other letters, or none of us are really into cards. Like I never really give my brother a card. He never gives me a card. It's very rare that me and my brother even give my mom a card, or my mom gives us a card. We're way more inclined to send each other gifts. And I feel like we all feel loved that way. But it's just crazy how we could feel loved that way, and then I could send my husband a gift and he's just like, where's the letter? So it's just, yeah, I just kind of want to talk about this because I really feel like it goes along the lines with MBTI and Enneagram, and I love kind of learning about people and understanding people and kind of the psychology of everything, because I know for me it has been something that Caleb and I have had to work on in our relationship, where we've honestly broken up over this before. He broke up with me for like a day and he was like, I just don't feel loved by you. You don't seem like you're into me at all. And I was just like shocked and like, what do you mean? You don't think I'm into you? And what do you mean I don't show you love? And then I just had like this list of things that I was like, I do this and that, and I say this, and like, I don't know, like we almost didn't last our relationship because of this. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to mention that. So if you're kind of in a relationship right now where you feel like the other person just like does not understand you and you just keep like missing each other, I would highly encourage you to study up on the 5 love languages. I know that it has really helped me in my life, because in the past, I feel like there was tension even in friendships for things that like neither of us could understand why. I lived in a house with one of my really good friends for a while, and this is the only other time I can remember it being kind of a conflict between us. My roommate was really high with acts of service, and again, it's probably one of my lowest love languages. So it's not even on my radar half the time, acts of service. And I think a lot of it too is how you grew up. Sometimes, like I said, my family never gave each other notes, and we didn't do a ton of acts of service type of stuff together. Like I would never like get up and grab my brother's plate and clean his plate, or like help my brother clean, or him help me. Like it just wasn't in our family as much. I'm not saying that's a good thing, it just was how I was raised. So sometimes it's a code book from your family or whatever. But for her, like, acts of service is really big, like huge. And when I lived with her, she would like randomly cook for me or make me something, and I was like so thankful that she did that, and I did feel loved, but it wasn't on my radar to do back. And it wasn't that I was like trying to be mean or didn't care about her, it was just simply like wasn't on my radar. And I think a lot of times with love languages, it's simply just not something that's on the other person's radar, and a lot of times it's a habit. So like you can have habits of something that you're not aware of, and once you realize that you do something or you're not doing something, once you can become more aware, then you can apply it and make it a habit. So for me, like still to this day, I will forget to write Caleb something on special dates, or I will like not think about a card, but I've had to train my brain to start thinking about that for him because that's how he feel loved. Caleb's also very extravagant with everything that he does. He does everything big and kind of like over the top, and I love that about him. When we first started dating, I kid you not, one of our first dates was he got me a whole bouquet of roses, a note. Then he had dinner reservations on top of a building overlooking all of San Diego. It was like a 5-course dinner. Then he had a gondola ride in the ocean with wine and food, and had a tour guide for us. And that was the first time he like kissed me. He said, "I love you," and all this stuff. And it was like this huge event. And when we first started dating, like I would say the first like, I don't know, probably 5 months of our relationship, he would just constantly do these extravagant things for me. And I loved it, but I also felt really overwhelmed because I was like, I don't know how to like top this. This is crazy. And so another thing that I've had to implement in our relationship as well is Caleb likes surprises. He's always surprising me constantly. So one of the things I've had to kind of implement is like figuring out ways to surprise him. I'm probably gonna, he probably won't watch this video because he's really busy right now, but I'm probably gonna plan a trip for him soon, traveling somewhere, and just plan the whole thing and then have us go. But it's little things like that if you can learn for your significant other, it will make your relationship so much easier. But yeah, I've kind of rambled on at this point. Again, it's a super long video. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful for you. And if you're in a relationship right now that's kind of like struggling, or you just can't seem to understand each other, I would highly recommend your significant other to take this test. And yeah, please comment down below and let me know what your love language is. Let me know if this has been something that you've had to learn in your own relationship and how it has affected your relationship. Yeah, and I figure some of you guys are gonna ask, like, do you think MBTI types have similar love languages? I have not found that to be the case personally. I found it to be different with each person, even within the same, in the same MBTI type. Usually, like, it's not dependent on MBTI. And I've also been in a couple of Facebook groups where people have asked to, you know, like have the INFJ write their love language down below, and honestly the results were so entirely different. I think love languages have a lot more to do with how you're raised, or your culture, or kind of like code books in your family. I think it's a lot of different things, and can vary from relationship to relationship. So it's really good just to kind of find out what your partner is like that has nothing to do with the MBTI type. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, it'll probably be about 2 weeks before I make another video because I'm going out of town for a while. So yeah, I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!